Okay, guys, so a few years ago, I was scrolling through my social media and eventually dating apps, tried to fill a void that was inside of me, and then I found this person. She was perfect, she was gorgeous, she gave me a non-stop attention. She replied my text saying the things that I want to hear or I need to hear. And after we spent a couple months texting each other online, we create a bond, a connection, but then I realized that I fell into a trap. I was catfished. We often thinking that I'm too smart to fall in that, or the signals are too obvious. But while I was doing my research, I discovered that when we are passing through major events in our lives, the chemistry of our brain changes, and we are tend to think differently as we should, like normally. So that's why we must be aware of our own vulnerabilities. We need to check in ourselves quite often to not let people take advantage of this. So that's why today I'm gonna talk about the 3 strategies that scammers use to exploit our vulnerabilities and use them against us. So while I was doing my research, I discovered that when we are passing through the major events of your life, like we feel lonely, we feel depressed, the prefrontal cortex of our brain, which is related to our rational thinking, they stop working as it should. And on the other hand, the limbic system, which is the emotional center of our brain, works harder, seeking for oxytocin and dopamine, the hormones of pleasure. And back on that time, I was recently breaking up from an 8 years relationship. So my limbic system was hunger for this pleasure, this immediate pleasure, and meeting that person, that perfect profile that give me 24/7 attention and say good, beautiful things to me, made my limbic system flood with fake oxytocin and dopamine. But I didn't see as a scammer back in that time. I saw a cure for my pain. So that's why we need to understand the chemistry of our brain, and is the first step to understand that we need to be aware of our own vulnerability and we need to check in ourselves. But now that the bond is created, the connection is made between you and the scammer, the second phase is that they need to maintain this illusion. So for this, I will introduce you the psychological phenomenon of denial and the fawn effect. Why we don't see things that it is in front of us sometimes? When the reality conflicts with our desire, emotional pain happens into our brains, and this is called cognitive dissonance. And to solve this, our brain tends to use the denial as a defense mechanism, filtering out all the negative evidences. So that's why we don't see the red flags clearly. And furthermore, it triggers the fawn response. It's the 4th survival response, because we have 4 survival response: fight, freeze, flee, and fawn. So instead of confronting the red flags and risking a conflict, our instinct is to appease the other person and accept their excuses, rationalizing them. So in my case, we schedule several dates, and she always has an excuse for all of them. So, and my, my cognitive dissonance always rationalize those excuses as, for example, oh, probably she's just having a hard time, or she really needs me, right? My logical mind saw those red flags, but my brain was so desperate to maintain this cycle, this emotional dependence, that I couldn't do anything related to it, right? And to break this cycle, we need to rationalize, and we cannot fawn over the red flags. We need to be aware of our own vulnerability. We need to check in ourselves. But it's not just the denial or vulnerability, the psychological drivers that hooked us into this situation. Now I'm going to introduce you the subconscious need for danger and excitement. Because behavioral researchers shows that predictable relationships, they eventually fall into a routine. And the cycle of intense hope and sudden cancellations, they gives you intermittent dopamine rewards. The same exactly chemistry behind the gambling addiction. So behind of this, even though it was clear that the red flags, this intermittent dopamine, this driving addiction make me fascinated by the chase of the situation. Just a second. And eventually, scammers is gonna use this intermittent reward with the sunk cost fallacy, because even though I was already invested my time, my energy, my emotions on that thing, that I will do up to everything to maintain this thing, maintain that situation. So here it comes the financial crisis, the fake financial crisis, asking for money, even though it's not directly. So even though I already had invested months of my life on this situation, so if I refuse to walk away, because if I walk away, I had admitted that I had lost everything. So I kept sinking costs, ignoring the excitement that was actually a financial crisis closing in. So to wrap it up, we learned that the emotional vulnerability is the entry point. We learned that because of the chemistry of our brain, we cannot see the things clearly, and scammers often hijack our limbic system to use against ourselves. And even though they use our necessity, our subconscious need for danger and excitement also against us. So that's why I think we need to often be aware of your own vulnerability, to protect your mind, to protect your emotions, and to protect your wallet. Thank you.